do was the school resource officers program.
Okay.
That started police officers in schools in the city of Cincinnati.
Another opportunity that you
Yes.
implemented.
That program was accepted and was going so well that the governor of the state of Ohio heard of this program. He sent me to every major college in the state of Ohio and made a presentation to the communities indicating how more beneficial the police department would be if they had a police officer in each school. That is now in place.
Wow.
As the school resource officers program was implemented here in Cincinnati, Scotty Johnson was a
Yeah, I was gonna ask him now. In the
Yeah.
'60s, he was in what, elementary
In the
school or
60s,
what?
yeah, elementary school.
Elementary school.
Exactly.
And then
That's
you
right.
ended up being in
I
a resource.
joined the police department in '86, and it is so interesting how our careers have paralleled.
Right.
Because Sergeant Matthews talks about the fact he was in radio
Right,
as
right.
the former president of the Sentinel Police Association
right,
in 2001. I had my own radio show. They started out with Buzz the Fuzz,
right,
which was
That's
something
right,
that
Buzz the Fuzz,
went back a little bit.
Right.
But I was in radio, had my own radio show on WDBZ for 7 years.
Right, yeah.
And the school resource officer program, I was at Taft High School
Okay.
for probably almost 5 years. And so just that the parody and following in a legend's footstep like
Yeah.
Sergeant Matthews, I actually walked in his footsteps,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
groundwork that he laid.
Right.
And it's just amazing how our careers have paralleled.
Yeah.
It really is.
And that's why we wanted to do this show. One of the reasons we wanted to do this show, Eavesdropping on the Elders, because we of course want to tell the stories, but we want to show the reality of the elders who have gone and blazed some trails.
Absolutely.
And planted some trees, the shade of which they would not enjoy.
That's
dug
right.
some wells from which they would not drink. And folks come along like you, I mean the Sentinels, and you're the president, and you're in the school resource program because of something that he did.
Exactly.
And those are the connections that we need to display.
And
to
you
our
deserve
children.
a lot of credit, Jim, for having the vision to seek our elders out, because
I
our
think it's
stories
so important.
our stories don't
Yeah.
get told,
Yeah.
and then our younger people don't learn
That's right.
and understand
That's right.
from
That's right.
where they are
Yeah.
now walking
Yeah.
in, and that is why it's always great to
Yeah.
pay homage to the
Yeah.
elders that blaze the trails.
This is just excellent. Go ahead,
One
Brother Ham.
other thing I'd like to point out. I was continually complaining to the chief about not having enough black officers, and that we were losing them but not hiring any.
Uh-huh.
And I complained so much. He said, Handy, I tell you what, you think you can find me some qualified blacks? I said, yes, I can. I'm gonna put you in a recruitment office, and you go find me some qualified blacks. In those days, which is probably now, we had 900 men in the police department. We had a budget from the city council. Also, the fire department had the same amount of money in their budget because they had 900 men. We started this recruitment drive. I'm still on radio shows and TV shows now, bringing them in. But the fire department looked and said, wait a minute, you're going to put that much money in the police department for Handy to do this? We want that
We want some
money
money
too. So the
Sounds
mayor-
like today.
the mayor said, give it to the fire department. But in those days, like when I joined the police department, there were no blacks in the fire department. None at all. It was all white, yeah. But when they went out to recruit, now they got to recruit blacks.
Black.
And
Absolutely.
consequently, that's
Man.
why the fire department became integrated
That's
during that particular time.
Wow.
And now we have a black fire chief.
That's
Every
right.
time he walks by me, he said, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
There you go. That's right.
right.
That's what it's
Absolutely.
about. That's what it's
Absolutely.
about. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
That is just a
But those are
tremendous story.
changes that we see coming in America.
Yeah.
And we see young men like you that come along, like Scotty, who can now find your true way in life. Heretofore, couldn't do things like this.
Right,
Yes, sir.
We were
right.
held down. But
Right.
now
Yeah.
it is open, and I hope
Yeah.
we continue to grow. When I
Oh,
say
yeah.
we, I mean the populace in our particular city
Right.
continue to grow and excel on the groundwork that's been laid for them too.
That's right.
Go to
That's
school
right.
and
Take
become
advantage of it.
somebody.
Take advantage of it.
That's right.
The legacy that
Absolutely.
you left needs to be taken advantage of by the younger generation.
That's right.
Now, tell us about your some of your proteges. You said that you were involved with bringing some of the young, the folks that we see in the police force now. I remember you standing with Cecil Thomas down at City Council, and then you mentioned our
Yes.
Assistant Chief,
yeah.
Mike Curtin. Tell us a story about that.
The recruitment at the unit that the chief formulated and put me in charge of recruiting young blacks. Cecil Thomas was a young man going to Woodward High School.
Woodward again.
That's right.
But he lived in Avondale. He lived in Avondale running with the crowd. You're not supposed to even speak to a police officer. So I had to beg him to join the police department. But then I could go back to the chief now and say, I found a qualified black.
That's
But
right.
after I left Woodward High School, I went to Hughes High School. Michael Curtin.
Michael Curtin.
And he is now the assistant chief.
That's right.
I said, please come sign up. Who?
So you recruited Michael Curtin.
I'm bending knees. I got Michael Curtin to join the Cincinnati Police Department.
Wow.
And now they have made me so proud
Man.
of the fact that he's become assistant chief, that Cecil Thomas had
Yeah.
retired and now is a city council person.
Yes, sir.
City Council.
Yes,
Talking
sir.
not running his mouth. But this only shows if we're given a chance,
That's right.
if we open these doors, we as black people can excel.
That's right.
And these are two shining examples. I could go on and talk about other men that I've recruited that also excel. But those are things that we did not see when I was at Washburn School.
Right, right.
The things that now are happening means that America is a better place to live in. We now can enjoy some of the things that all Americans are supposed to have. We ourselves can be and will be if we go to school and
Right,
do what we're
right,
supposed
yeah,
to do.
yeah.
Enjoy all the things that are brought onto us.
Absolutely.
The being an educated person, the chief of police sent me to Detroit, Michigan, to go to a funeral to represent him. A black police officer was killed up there. And journeying to Detroit, the chief said, Handy, I'd like to give you a police car to go up there, but I can't, the rules say I can't give you a police car to go out of the state.
Wow.
Who gave me a police car? The president of the Fraternal Order of Police, the FOP.
Oh, yeah?
I remember that. Jim
He gave you a
Phil.
car.
He said, Handy, you can have my car. The president of FOP. I took his car and went to Detroit and attended that funeral. But I met police officers from all over the
Right.
state. Cleveland, Toledo, Detroit. We come together and we found out we all had common problems.
Absolutely.
Very few blacks and no upward mobility.
Yeah.
Consequently, we formed an organization called a Regional Black Police Association. After this, God works in mysterious ways. There was a person named Gibson, part of Cincinnati Police Department, that said, I'm going to quit. I can't go up any further. They're not going to let me. I'm going back to school. He went to Michigan State University, and his doctorate thesis was working with a community involving in police officers. He got a grant where police officers, black police officers, came from Los Angeles, New York, Miami, Atlanta, all over the United States. We came together in Detroit and went out in the communities and explained the benefit of community involvement with police officers. But at night, after we finished our work in the community, we all came back to the same hotel. And then we sat down and we laid the groundwork for the National Black Police Association,
Wow.
the Sentinels.
That's
Are you
right.
kidding
Yes,
me?
that's
That's
how
right.
we planned it. And I don't know how we were going to get black men from all over the United States to fly into one particular place. We didn't have no money. Police officers didn't make any money. But it would happen. And we all came together and planned it at night, sitting up at night after we finished our work in the community. Yes, Renault Roberts from Chicago, I remember, the head of police officers, after we formulated let's see, what was the first national convention was in Atlanta, Georgia. That's when I met the mayor, the man running the first black mayor.
Mayor Jackson. My
Jackson,
friend.
he came over to be with us, and I met him. We started the organization with the first meeting in Atlanta. The second meeting, national convention, was in my district, Louisville, Kentucky. The president of the Louisville organization had some problems with the administration. I went to Louisville to talk to the mayor, who put me out of his office because he was just chastising the president because he wore afro. That was kind of symbolic that if you wore afro, he was against what was going on. Yeah. But we had the convention there, and I was co-chairman, and it was successful. And now the Sentinels, they've changed the name from the Black Police Association to the Sentinels, which later on Scotty Johnson became president.
I see. I was going to ask you about the Sentinels. I didn't know that you had participated in starting it. I was going to ask you, Scotty, how did it start? Was it around when you were there?
We saw the
They started
need
it.
here, and when I got to Detroit and talked to people from Philadelphia, from New York, Miami, Florida, they had the same problems.
Yeah.
We upper mobility. We
yeah.
we couldn't get in the high. We did have a lieutenant,
Yeah.
but we needed to be able to go. I sat next to a man in my class when we were going to school, and he said, "Handy, could you help me, please? I don't understand what." And I helped him with his work. Later on, I come out, I couldn't pass the sergeant exam, but he was a lieutenant. And I said, "Oh, wait a minute, we have to, this stuff has to stop." But
Yeah.
we couldn't come out in those days and just really knock the government down.
Right.
You know who told me that? Dr. Martin Luther King.
He told you that?
The chief said, "Handy, I want you to pick up Dr. King. He's coming to Cincinnati."
You
for
just
a
had
speech."
all kinds of relationships.
I went
didn't you?
to the airport, picked up Dr. King, told him what we were trying to do as black police officers. He said, "Yes." He said, "But the government is so structured that you can do it within the government. You don't have to throw any firearms. You don't have to shoot anybody." And my experience spending 3 days with Dr. King was so uplifting for me.
Yeah.
Dr. Otis Moss
Otis Moss, yeah.
was a preacher here in Cincinnati at that time. I didn't let people come down to the hotel while I had Dr. King hid out because the chief.
So you were guarding him there?
Yeah, I was his bodyguard. I picked him
Wow.
up at the airport, took him to the hotel, secretly hid him in a room. Remember, I wouldn't let him go to no windows and look out.
Wow.
Oh, the chief told me, "Don't you let Dr. King get killed in Cincinnati." Yes, sir.
Can you
But he
imagine
didn't-
that, Scotty? So there must have been some thoughts and rumors about
This is amazing, the parody, because I was assigned to Desmond Tutu.
No
And
kidding.
spent 2 days with Bishop Tutu in Cincinnati.
When he was here, what,
When he-
93 or so?
I think, yeah, back in
'cause I went to one of
93,
his
exactly, and was with Desmond Tutu. So the parodies in our careers were unbelievable, and almost the same message. It wasn't, "Don't let Desmond Tutu get killed,"
Right.
Cincinnati. Tell me, Scotty, you make sure nothing happens
Nothing
to that
happens
Bishop Tutu, and anything he needs, we are at his beck and call.
Wow.
So the parody is unbelievable, and as Sergeant Matthews talked about, laying the groundwork. But it's up to our generation and the generation behind us to walk through the doors
That's right,
that they open.
that's right. You gotta
It's
walk
easy
through.
if the doors are open. We still have to walk
That's
through them
right.
because there's so much work
That's
to be
right,
done.
yeah.
But we have to give homage and pay respect to those that
Yeah.
laid that type of groundwork.
right.
Sergeant Matthews talking about forming the first National Black Police Association.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in 2001, when they called it a riot, but
Right,
we knew
right,
it was an
same thing.
unrest.
That's
It
right.
wasn't even close
That's right.
to,
It wasn't close to
unfortunately, what happened in the
67.
60s.
Oh, no.
But the National Black Police Association sent people here to make sure all was well here in Cincinnati. And anything I needed as president of the Sentinels, the national organization was going to make sure it was done. But those type of stories are not told, they're forgotten. But as Sergeant Matthews explained,
Yeah.
they met in Detroit, laid the groundwork so I could walk in those footpaths and attempt to continue to bring
Right.
the citizens and the police together. There's a fancy term for it now. What they were doing is called community-oriented policing.
Yeah, yeah.
But we knew
Yeah.
as black police officers, the only way, as an investigator, as a detective, I was going to only get information if I had a rapport, as Sergeant Matthews talks
That's right.
about, with the
With the-
citizens that I
that's
was
right.
investigating.
That's right.
So it was no big deal to go into where I was in the West End as an investigator.
You were in the West End too?
Absolutely. As a district investigator, when crimes were committed and the people you had established relationships with,
you could
they
talk
would
to
let
them.
you know. There are no Sherlock Holmes out there.
Right.
And unfortunately, you hear about where people are not giving information on
Yeah, we got
crime.
into this no snitching
But
stuff now.
Yeah.
but I beg to differ. They're not going to stand in front of cameras and not going to
Right.
stand around
Yeah,
a
but they have
bunch of police
relationship with
officers
you, though.
and just give them information.
Exactly.
But we solve crimes in Cincinnati because the phone calls are made later.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that relationship, as Sergeant Matthews talked about, community-oriented
Everything's
policing, you
about
hear it all big
relationships.
time now. It's got a fancy
Right,
term.
right.
But they were doing it
They
back
were
in the
doing it.
60s.
Pioneers.
Exactly.
Pioneers.
Absolutely.
Did you ever have any problems with anybody that you, like, when you made arrests, especially with, did you ever arrest white people? Because Scotty was telling me something, one of his, and I want him to share that with us, but did you have any experiences?
The department was so designed that we were not constantly in contact with Caucasian
You only
with white
police
people.
black people.
But when I went to the traffic bureau, then they put me in a car and said I could go all over the city riding a speed car, and I went all over the city investigating accidents. But I noticed that I was never assigned to Price Hill. We had 100 people in this unit, and a lot of them lived in that particular area in Mount Washington. I could receive a call to go, but I was given a disregard because another officer said he was closer to make sure that I didn't come in contact with. And when it was too busy for them to intercede, I then made contact and made arrests or whatever called for in the auto accident or whatever I was doing.
Right.
And the courts accepted this. If things were changing, there was a judge that asked me, Handy, would you mind taking a picture with me and I could use it in my campaign running for judge, a white judge? I said, yes, okay, I'll do that. I said, I got to get permission from the chief, of course, to do a political thing. And he gave me permission because I was posing with the right party.
Oh, yeah.
But this was also opening doors for us as black police officers to be accepted in the courts as equal.
Yeah.
We were police officers, and our word should have been as
Just
much
as good,
as
that's right.
white officers.
Yeah.
Later on, when I stepped aside and decided to retire, you see young men like Scotty Johnson coming along, makes you so proud that you have somebody that know what we went through and what now he can do, and he did it.